Welcome to my channel Zen Aesthetic. If this is your first time here, thank you for clicking on my video. And if you're already a subscriber to my channel, thank you so much for subscribing, liking, sharing, and following me on my fragrance journey. In this video, I am going to talk about 10 rose fragrances in my collection that I absolutely love. So in a way, this fragrance video is for those of you who are rose fragrance lovers, but it may even be for those of you who don't like rose fragrances or think that you don't love rose fragrances. There are some affordable rose fragrances here, and there are some higher priced rose fragrances here in this collection. So if you're interested in hearing about what my 10 favorite rose fragrances are that are currently in my collection, keep watching. I never was somebody who disliked rose fragrances, but I think that previously when I thought about my preference for fragrances, rose was not amongst my preferences. I will say that there is a fragrance here in the 10 rose fragrances that I'm going to talk about, which was the first fragrance that I was just like, oh my God, I love this. Maybe I do like rose fragrances. And apparently I do. I have these 10 rose fragrances here that have made me realize that I do love a beautiful rose fragrance. I think that rose is classic. I think it's fresh, easy, beautiful, sensual, sophisticated. And maybe these are things that are normally attributed to an older, more mature woman. But I really don't like the whole idea of rose fragrances being relegated to like old lady fragrances. So when I think about the way that our tastes change over time, if you're a fragrance lover, you might not be crazy about rose right now. That's fine. I'm not crazy about strawberry and raspberry fragrances. But it's not to say that one day I might not become a raspberry and strawberry lover. There's time. Our tastes change. So if you're someone who thinks of rose fragrances as old lady fragrances and you're watching this video, I still urge you to stay for a while and check out some of these fragrances here that I will talk about. I feel like there is a good range of rose fragrances here that perhaps will appeal to those who think that they don't like rose fragrances. Again, if rose is not your thing, that's fine. But if there's a stigma in your mind about that all rose fragrances are for old ladies, I would just urge you to just kind of broaden your mind a little bit, recognize that we're all going to get into the old lady, old person, old human being place if we're lucky and not sort of like stereotype. I hope I haven't said anything like that in the past in my videos. If I have, I really, really have learned not to do that. And I want to move forward not doing that too much because our preferences are our preferences. The things that we like, the things that turn us on, the things that repulse us, that is completely up to what your nose responds to. But it doesn't mean that you have to put it down or put down the group of people or the demographic of people to whom those notes are appealing. So, with that out of the way, so the first fragrance that I want to talk about is from Zara, the notoriously affordable fragrance brand, and this is Love Explosion. I believe that this is a 30 ml. This is one of their smaller sizes. I will put the notes up on the screen. I'm not going to talk too much about the notes, but Love Explosion for me, when I discovered this fragrance in Zara, reminds me a whole lot of Roses and Vanille by Mancera, if you've ever smelled that fragrance. If you've never smelled this before, it is a combination of Zara's Rose Gourmand and Red Temptation. But this is definitely decidedly more rosy than it is Red Temptation. It has a pretty decent longevity for a fragrance that in this size, I think it's about $17. Full size, it's probably no more than 20 or 30 bucks. And I really enjoy this. There's not much of a dent on this quite as yet, just because I have quite a few Zara fragrances and I just haven't gotten around to spraying this down. Should probably put it on one of my fragrance trays, but I'm actually glad that I still have a lot of it left because I really, really love this fragrance. So again, this is Love Explosion by Zara, combination of Zara's Rose Gourmand, which is on its own a very nice rose fragrance, and it's combined with Red Temptation, which is in my opinion, really great take on MFK 540 by Francis Kirkjohn, and one of my favorite fragrances from Zara as well. So the next fragrance that I want to talk about from Zara is Bye Love. This is a fragrance that I've done a dedicated review of on my channel. I'll put a link here to where you can watch that. I mean, I cannot say enough about how much I love this fragrance. Definitely, you can see here in the dent that I have sprayed this a lot. It's a very beautiful, classy, sensual, refined, high quality smelling fragrance for a Zara fragrance. I mean, I have read a lot about this fragrance. I have heard that it is very close to a fragrance from Givenchy called L'Interdit. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I've never smelled that fragrance before. It's definitely on my radar. But if it smells anything like this, I mean, I just love this fragrance so, so much. It's just, I don't know. It is romantic. It's also, oh my God. Oh, maybe I should talk a little bit about the notes in this. But I think it's a pretty simple note breakdown. I think there's patchouli in this. I forget what kind of rose is in there. It's pretty simple. It's not a whole lot of notes going on. Oh my God, but I love it. I think I described it as a rose fragrance that's softly tinged with patchouli or akagalu wood, and simple, sexy, so good, cozy feeling to me anyway. I've sprayed this just for myself, just to walk around and smell it. It is so lovely, and I feel like this is one of the fragrances from Zara, one of the best rose fragrances from Zara, that is an example of a fragrance that I would definitely pay more money for. That if I smell this just blind, I would think that it costs way more than it does. So again, if you love rose fragrances, you've never tried this one from Zara Bye Love, I definitely recommend you put your nose on this. Again, this is Zara's Bye Love. So the next rose fragrance from Zara that I want to talk about, and if you've been watching my channel for a while, this is no surprise to you. This is Fashionably London from Jo Malone. And this is just an amazing, beautifully blended. Also, another Zara fragrance with 3 notes in it. All of Jo Malone's fragrances that she collaborated with Zara on from this series just have 3 notes in it. And this one, I mean, when I smell this, I just could not believe that this was a Zara fragrance, because once upon a time, I absolutely looked down my nose at Zara fragrances like, why would I ever buy a fragrance from Zara? Why would I ever take fragrances from Zara seriously? This one, if you're like me and you thought the same, this one's going to make you change your mind. Bye Love and Fashionably London. This smells like $100 fragrance to me. This is so upscale, classy, beautiful, bright, sweet, but not cloyingly sweet, more crisp. Fashionably London, by the way, is a fragrance that was or is designated as a fragrance for men and women, so unisex, and I would agree on that as well. So the top note is bergamot, the mid note is rose, and the base note is musk. That's it. Bergamot, rose, and musk. Yeah, so it's a very simply composed fragrance, elegant, like I said, upscale, refined, fresh, bright, the kind of fragrance that smells really great when you jump out of the shower and just want to put on something that is easy and that's going to make you smell like just fancy, elegant, pulled together. Yeah, I absolutely recommend this to anyone who loves rose fragrances and are looking for something that is affordable but smells way more expensive than it actually is. So, yeah, Fashionably London, Joe Malone is just one of those bangers. It's so good. The next rose fragrance in my collection, which I absolutely love, and this is a fragrance that's inspired by the combination of two beautiful niche fragrances, which I have not put my nose on as yet. And if you can't tell by now, this is a fragrance from Juliana's Perfume, and this is Double Decadence Lush Sunset. This, I believe, is the first full bottle of fragrance that I ever purchased from Juliana's Perfume, and it is so amazing. So it is a combination of Atomic Rose by Initio Perfumes and Spiritus Double Vanille by Guerlain. It is slightly leathery, powdery, kind of spicy, sexy, beautiful fragrance. Like, this is the kind of fragrance that is more of an evening kind of rose fragrance, like a date night, like a special gala kind of function kind of rose fragrance. I'm going to spray this one on the back of my hand. Mm, mm. Yes. Just so sexy. Just again put together, upscale, refined. I mean, all of Juliana's perfumes in my collection that I've purchased from them so far have been beautifully blended fragrances. This one was the first full bottle, and I was and am so impressed by it. Again, smells like $1,000,000. You would not think when you smell this that this is like $40. It is so good. Oh my goodness, the vanilla in this. I mean, the notes in this fragrance, I believe, are very similar, if not exactly the same as the two fragrances that it's inspired by. Again, I've never put my nose on Atomic Rose or Spiritus Double Vanille. I absolutely hope to one day because this combo is amazing. And I don't know any other inspiration fragrance house that is doing what Juliana's Perfume does with niche fragrance, like combining two together, almost making their own original fragrance. I don't know where else they're doing that. If you do, let me know. But Double Decadence Lush Sunset is just unbelievable. It is lush. It is sexy and leathery, but again, it's like you're very kind of like sexy, formal, put together evening kind of a rose fragrance. So, if any of that is interesting to you, if any of that is intriguing to you, definitely put your nose on Juliana's Perfume Double Decadence Lush Sunset. So the next fragrance that I want to talk about is from Kayali, and this is the first fragrance that I smelled that made me realize that I like rose fragrances. This is a travel size, a small size of Kayali's Oudgasm Rose from the Oudgasm collection, and this is what it looks like. Now, this is a loud rose fragrance. It's a bit intense for some, but it's also very familiar to me in a really positive way. It doesn't bother me that it is a loud rose fragrance. I really love it. This was a fragrance that I discovered when I bought several sample vials of Kylie fragrances. I also did a first impression video of those. And again, this was a standout to me. This was one of the first fragrances that I smelled where I was just like, oh my goodness, like I really like this. So I'm gonna spray a little bit on my arm. Mm, yeah, this is a bold rose fragrance. It is quite loud, definitely long wearing. I just love it. I love how loud it is. I love how sweet the rose is. Oudgasm Rose by Kayali is also a unisex fragrance for men and women. And it's got geranium, lemon, and pear at the top, Bulgarian rose and peony in the mid, oud, vanilla, and cashmere wood in the base. This is a beautiful fragrance. So the Bulgarian rose is the rose that I am very familiar with, that I really, really love, that is loud and sweet and pretty and just beautiful to me. And I really love the lemon and pear at the opening in this fragrance as well. I just think that it's one of my favorite from Kayali's Oudgasm line. The other one is vanilla. I only got it like close to the end of last year because it was on my wish list. And once again, I'm glad that I have quite a bit of it left because I really like it and I want to keep it in my collection for as long as I possibly can. So again, this is Kayali's Oudgasm Rose Oud, and this was one of the first rose fragrances that really stood out to me, that I was just like, okay, I might like rose fragrances because of this. So the next rose fragrance I want to talk about is not, it's not a rose fragrance or perfume. It's a body mist, right? But because it performs like a fragrance, it definitely makes this collection of my 10 favorite rose fragrances. And that fragrance is from Salt and Stone and is their Black Rose and Oud fragrance body mist. I believe this is a fragrance body mist. This ain't like these other body mists out here. This thing lasts, it has projection, and it's expensive, and it's good. So this is very much a body mist that reminds me a little bit of Joe Malone's Fashionably London. It is also very crisp, slightly bitter, and a little bit leathery with that dark oud in it. And this is a body mist that I used to visit at Sephora over and over again. I would go, I would sniff this, I'd be like, do I like this? What do I not like this? But I just could not stop going back and smelling it. And finally I purchased it. This I believe is about $45. But it's lasted me quite a long time. I feel like I've had this almost a year now. I definitely purchased it in 2024. You can see that we're down to the last, I don't know what this is, like the last quarter or so of it. It is also another sort of bright, crisp kind of a rose fragrance, really wonderful to spray on after you get out of the shower in the same way that Joe Malone is. And I mean, yes, it is $45 for a body mist, but like I said, this does not perform like other body mists. This is a long lasting, projecting, relatively strong body mist. So I feel like you're really getting your money's worth here, as if it was like a fragrance, even though it's not an EDP. Again, you if you like your rose fragrances with some oud in it, which apparently I do, definitely check out this fragrance from Salt and Stone. This is the only thing that I've ever purchased from Salt and Stone. I've never tried any of their other mists or like body washes. I don't believe. This is the only thing that I have tried from them, and again, I absolutely love it. It's like I said, if you put this on, it's going to stay on. It's great also to layer with other rose fragrances. Not absolutely certain if I would repurchase a full bottle of this, but I am glad to have had it for as long as I have. Maybe I would repurchase it. I mean, I have used it a lot, but I mean, $45 is pricey for a body mist. But if there's any body mist that I would recommend paying this much for, it is definitely this one. So the seventh rose fragrance I want to talk about is Mancera's Roses and Vanille. This is a very popular fragrance for Mancera. Most people who love roses and vanille profile fragrances know about this one. You know, it's not a cheap one. This I think is about 105 for like a 60 mil. Um, and it's just so beautiful. It is so smoothly blended that it's really hard to tell where the vanilla ends and the rose begins. A lot like Juliana's Perfume, Double Decadence, Lush Sunset. I mean, It gets better and better over time. This is another sort of really easy reach kind of rose fragrance that I highly, highly recommend. I have worn this quite a bit. So I'm just going to spray this on a tester. Yeah, I can't, whenever I smell this fragrance, it's just, it comes on really softly and then it kind of like develops after a few seconds drying down. And it's just really, really nice. Good for the winter, really good all year round. I think that what starts to come to the surface over time in the dry down of this is the rose in it. But in the beginning, to me, I just smell them both together, and it is so lovely, clean, soft, a fragrance that's so easy to wear. It's not super complicated. Again, this is a popular fragrance. It's popular for a reason. And if you love the Roses and Vanille profile, this is a really good fragrance to get your nose on if you haven't yet. So the next rose fragrance that I absolutely love and want to talk about, I do not have a full bottle of this fragrance. It's on my full bottle wish list and has been for quite some time, probably over 2 years, and that is Velvet by Commodity. Now, the maker, the founder of Commodity, I don't know how he would feel about categorizing Velvet as a rose fragrance, but it is decidedly a rose fragrance and one of the most unique rose fragrances I have ever put my nose on. Whenever I smell this fragrance, I just am transported. I'm also just wowed by it. Just wowed. This is one of the first fragrances that I ever smelled from Jerome Epinay. This one has roasted almond in it, and this is the expressive version, by the way, the only one that I absolutely love. Not the bold and not the moderate one. It's bold, expressive, and whatever the one is that is like you don't, it's like the least projecting one. This is the one in the middle, and this to me is the iconic version of Commodities Velvet. And I don't hear a lot of people talk about this fragrance, but it is just amazing. It's one of the first fragrances I've ever smelled that had that roasted warming quality to it, and it's described as a fragrance that was designed around the feeling of velvet against skin. And I mean, like, who even knows what that means until you're smelling it? And I'm like, they nailed that. They nailed that feeling with this fragrance. It is so amazing. So here's my little sample size. I forget what purchase I made from Commodity that this came with, but I'm glad to have gotten it because I've never had a full bottle of it. I wish that they could give it in one of those sets where they have like the little one and like the travel size. I've gotten that for Milk, but Velvet, they rarely give this out in anything else but the full size or these little mini ones at Commodity. Oh, I think this has clove in it too. At least it smells like it does. So it's clove, it's roasted almond, it's rose. Oh my goodness. I mean, I haven't even put it to my nose yet. It's so good. It's so soothing. This is such a good rose fragrance for the winter because it's just so warming and oh, just calming and relaxing. So yeah, I've never worn this out before because I'm too precious with whatever velvet I get from Commodity. At least I don't remember wearing it out. I might have sprayed it on my wrist around the house. Maybe I might have sprayed it and gone out with it, but I need a full bottle of this so bad. It is so lovely. So good. Such an incredible interpretation of a rose fragrance. It's one of my favorites from Commodity next to Milk. It's just so good. It stays good on Commodity's website, the expressive version of Velvet has the following notes. So, first it's coconut water, then roasted almonds, then rose petals, and then finally there is vanilla, amber, and smoky musk. Interesting, because when I smell this, I never really pick up the vanilla. I get the cloves right away, which are not included in this description of the notes for the expressive, but I feel like they must be in there somewhere. I get the roasted almonds, the coconut water a little bit, definitely the rose petals, the amber, and the smoky musk. All I know is it is one of the most unique rose fragrances I've ever smelled. One of the only fragrances I've ever smelled with a note of roasted almonds in it. It makes such a difference. It really just it just creates the most unique experience in a rose fragrance that I've ever smelled. And I just think that it's very imaginative and out of the box, but still classy and sophisticated and upscale, but very unique, which is what Commodity does very well when it's doing very well in fragrance. And I think this is one of the first fragrances that I ever smelled designed by Jerome Epinay that made me follow the other fragrances that he designed. So, yeah, Commodity Velvet. If you've not smelled it and you're intrigued by these notes, definitely check this out. So, the next fragrance I want to talk about, we've got two more to go. Thank you for hanging with me if you're still watching. This one is Joe Malone, Velvet Rose and Oud. So, and this is, I think this is like a 50 mil. I'm not sure, and I don't have my glasses, but I'll put it up on the screen. This is another fragrance that I smelled in Sephora and would visit. I mean, probably over a year. It was on my full bottle fragrance list. This is not a full bottle, but it is a good enough size for me. I absolutely just am in love with this fragrance. It is like if you get no other of these rose fragrances that I've talked about, if you get none other, I would say that this one and Velvet by Commodity are the two rose fragrances that you have to put your nose on if you love rose fragrances. This is the quintessential, classy, refined, beautiful, feminine rose fragrance. And I think that this is for women. I suppose it could be unisex as well, but for me, it's kind of like Bye Love from Zara. That's right. I put Bye Love from Zara on a par with Joe Malone Velvet Rose and Oud. This one that cost maybe $30, and this one it was over $100. But oh my God, is it worth it? It is so freaking good. This one I sprayed on myself this morning just to go out and run an errand. But I would not say that this fragrance is for wearing to go run errands. It's just that I just felt like smelling it. It's so beautiful. It's so feminine. And it just has everything going for it. Everything is done right in this fragrance. All of the things that you think about when you think about a classic rose fragrance are in this fragrance, in my opinion. And if you want to say that it is a mature fragrance, you could say that. You could say that this is a grown, sexy rose fragrance. It is. I absolutely love it. And I love that about it. Smells like a long black velvet gown, like a formal event. I wouldn't even necessarily. Oh, this is date night. No, this is date night. This is definitely date night as well. Yeah, I mean, anyone can wear what they want, but to me, when I smell this, I just, to me, it's a feminine fragrance. I think it could be good on a man as well, but oh man, do I get grown, sexy, pulled together feminine vibes from this. The woodiness in this, I don't remember what the wood is. Should I look it up? Is it patchouli? Is it akagala wood? We know it's a oud. It could be agar wood though. I'm gonna check it out now. So Velvet Rose and Oud by Joe Malone has damask rose, agar wood, and praline and clove. Oh, my favorite. So motherfucking good. So the final rose fragrance in my rose fragrance collection is a niche fragrance, a popular one that a lot of niche fragrance lovers will know, and this is from Parfums de Marley, and this is the Delina La Rosee. So I just have a decant of this from Scent Split. This is the second purchase of the Delina Rosee that I have made from Scent Split. The first one was a 5 ml, and I loved it enough that I was ready to move up to the 9 ml. And this is another really, really unique rose fragrance. This is a delicate, watery, slightly sharp, balsamic kind of a rose fragrance, feminine rose fragrance. When I first smelled it almost a year ago now, I was just like, I've never smelled a rose fragrance like this. I've never smelled a balsamic note in fragrance before I smelled this. And I had no idea that these things could go together in such a harmonious way. I felt like this was the kind of rose fragrance that would be good for the summer months because it's got such a freshness to it, a lightness. But I think that this is a beautiful rose fragrance for all year round. You see where my dent is. It's not necessarily because I've worn this out a lot, but because I've sprayed it on myself just inside. I can attest to that. The longer it sits, the better smelling it gets. I had my empty 5 ml of this fragrance just sitting around for a while because I couldn't let it go because I just kept picking it up to smell it, even though it was empty. And I think I like it better personally when it sits for a while. When I got this one and I sprayed it, I was just like, ooh, this is different from the first one that I got. But the first one that I got, I'd had sitting for a while and it really grew more and more on me over time. So this one is kind of getting to that place as well. I've had this one for a few months as well. And I think it's better with age. It's a beautiful fragrance, but it's not just sweet rose, and it's definitely not the oudy, heavy, dark rose fragrance. It's got some sharpness to it. It's got some light, watery delicateness to it. Sweetness, yes, but not just sweet. I feel like this is a good daytime fragrance. I'm not sure whether I would want a full bottle of this. I think getting it in the decants is good enough for me right now. But it's definitely a rose fragrance that I would recommend to anyone who loves rose fragrances. It is popular for a reason. It is just, I've never smelled another rose fragrance like this. Very beautiful. So the Lila La Rose Parfum de Marley on Fragrantica, it says the notes are top is lychee, pear, bergamot, pink pepper. Middle notes are Turkish rose, watery notes, peony, and floral notes. And the base is white musk, woody notes, and Haitian vetiver. I do love me some vetiver. The only thing that I don't really get heavy with this is woody notes. To me, what I get most of this is the watery, the Turkish rose, lychee pear, peony, floral notes. Not so much pink pepper, bergamot for sure. But the base notes, I don't get a heavy sort of like base note experience from this. And that is not a judgment. I think it's beautiful. I think it's a light, watery fragrance and it does well without necessarily having too much heaviness in it. And it's a fragrance that develops, it evolves, it changes, it moves, you know? I always have to remind myself by smelling it again that this journey is not a fixed static one. It's very, like I said, unique, beautiful, worth putting your nose on, definitely worth getting a decant of just to try it because I don't believe that this is a safe blind buy rose fragrance. It's probably the least safe blind buy rose fragrance of all the rose fragrances that I've talked about so far. But again, still worth getting your nose on. So again, this is my decant of Delina La Rosee from Parfums de Marley. So that is it for me. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you are a rose fragrance lover, please let me know what your favorite rose fragrances are in the comment section down below. I would love to hear from you about any rose fragrances that you think that I should try. I love rose fragrances so much. I love the way they make me feel. So this was incredibly enjoyable to me, especially since I've been trying to make this video for the longest time. So curating it and collecting all of these fragrances together to do this one video, it's just been really, really wonderful. And if you're somebody who for some reason is still here and you don't like rose fragrances at all, thank you so much for watching, especially if you don't like rose fragrances. Maybe it will usher in a new era of rose fragrance love for you. Who knows? And if you like this video, show me your likes by clicking on the thumbs up button down below. And until I see you in my next video, please feel free to check out any of my videos here on Zen Aesthetic. Bye.